A very good morning and a warm welcome to Smart 24 TV, where we drive your business. Of course, today is the National Budget Day, and finally, of course, we're going to hear from Kololo very soon about the reading of the National Budget. Smart 24 TV says we are going to be giving you updates as, of course, they unfold from Kololo. But before that, of course, we have a preamble, and of course, we are going to look into what the budget has for you as a citizen. Now, when you look at the revenue collection targets for the 52.7 trillion budget that is currently going to be tabled before Ugandans, we have at least over 29.3 trillion that is, of course, expected to be collected by the Uganda Revenue Authority. And now under this, of course, we have an increase of about 16% from last year's target, which was about 25.5 trillion Ugandan shillings. Some of the things that the government is looking at is widening the tax base to see that they get more income. But also, the fact is there has been a lot of failures by the Uganda Revenue Authority to meet their targets. Now, earlier this year as well, in February 15th circular, the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Finance, that is Mr. Ramadan Gobi, actually issued a circular that says the registration of new as well as replacement of all old government of Uganda number plates for vehicles and motorcycles will be in place starting July. Now, July is the first month of the financial year, and this means that definitely this is going to be one of the targets for revenue collection by the Ugandan government. However, of course, there has been uproar from different players in the transportation industry, especially from the public transporters, car dealers, and several other people that are within the transportation sector about the contentious digital number plates. These digital number plates are, of course, estimated to be costing about $200 per plate. That's close to 735,000 Ugandan shillings per plate. What is at stake for especially the transporters in the industry, but also for the dealers, that is, those that are dealing in the sale and, of course, brokerage of cars for the digital number plates? To discuss this and more, I'm joined by none other than two gentlemen who are very key to this sector. One of them being Mr. Rapper Thompson, and that is Ricky as well from the Self Border. He's the proprietor of the company, and he's here to give us his insights. I'm also joined by Mr. Ayebare Marvin, who is a car dealer himself, but also representing the Associated Motor Dealers as their publicity secretary. You're most welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
I'll start with you, Ayebare, because we've had interactions on this before. The motor vehicle industry, as you see it currently, there's been a lot of probably hike in prices of vehicles themselves, the tax regulations, and so on and so forth. What is your take on the digital number plates in the first place as a car dealer?
Well, Anthony and our viewership, thank you again for inviting me to address this somewhat contentious issue in relation to regulation in road and transport safety. As you rightfully mentioned, I am here in capacity as the publicity secretary for the Associated Motor Dealers. That is the umbrella body that governs and brings together car dealers and importers, bond operators in Uganda. First of all, in relation to your question, number plates. What is a number plate? Is what I will ask. And then I will ask, what is a digital number plate? I don't know, Ricky, you will have your own say, but in my opinion personally, I would like first of all to give credit where it's due. Firstly, to the fountain of honor of this country, and that's our Commander-in-Chief, our President, and the security organs in place that have made an effort to ensure that every citizen in the country is safe and they are protected, especially in terms of their lives and also their property. The digital number plates is a very interesting phenomenon in relation to our industry. It does present many advantages that, especially basing on what we have been told thus far. The advantages, however, also do have pros and cons. First of all, maybe let's understand what is a digital number plate.
Absolutely.
We had the sensitization yesterday, the first of its kind, as key stakeholders in the industry with the Ministry of Works, where they gave us an elaborate description or understanding of what exactly the context of digital number plates means. And this I would like to share with our viewership, who are also our consumers. There will be a number plate component of which the entire format of the number plate has been changed. We shall no longer have UBJ, UBN 001A. No, they have entirely changed the layout of the number plates, how it's formalized, how the format is set out, then the allocation to the different ministries, the private individuals, the NGOs, the diplomats. It's been completely changed. But the thing that most people have maybe not yet properly understood is that now on top of the number plates, they will attach in each and every motor vehicle and motorcycle a tracking device, which is then interlinked with the number plates and then interlinked with the camera system that the Uganda government has been set up. What does this mean? That in real time, the people in charge of our security are then supposed to know the particular location of any vehicle or motorcycle that is registered under the Ugandan system. So just to give clarity, we are not talking only a digital number plate. There is a number plate, there is a tracking device, and it's interconnected to a camera system that is then monitored at the command center in Naguru. I hope we understand the concept of a digital number plate. That's what it means in summary.
So it's actually two things in one. You're not just looking at the number plate being digital, but you have the tracking device within the number plate.
Exactly.
Is the tracking device attached to the number plate or to the vehicle as well?
The tracking device is attached to the vehicle, whether it's a vehicle or a motorcycle. It's attached onto, but then interconnected to the number plate. And then the cameras that the government has set up are then able to read the number plates and as I think relay the information as per the data that they have in relation to this particular vehicle or motorcycle on the national database system. Now, looking at the current state of our country, I think there is a certain level of fear or uncertainty in the public, especially in relation to security. And that's in the wake of all these murders and crimes that have recently been committed. When we sat in our engagement as car dealers and also with the motorcycle fraternity, we agreed with the idea behind the implementation of these number plates. What, however, we have a few challenges with is how the government is going about it. And our purpose here is to discuss what we feel needs to be improved for the government, maybe to improve how this is rolled out and its eventual efficiency in achieving its goal that it's been set up for. Allow me to raise one issue that has been highly contentious for us, Anthony. It has been the issue of sensitization and public awareness in relation to this project. We can sit all day and discuss the pros and cons of it. It does have advantages, and as a Ugandan who's concerned about his safety of his property and safety of my life, I would buy into the idea. I definitely commend the government. But my first point of contention is why hasn't there been enough adequate widespread sensitization to the general public, who are the consumers of this commodity? Remember, we are not merely having a change of clothes, or we are just having a change in format. We are having a change in a national policy. We are having a change in the regulation, the layout, the outflow of all number plates in this country. Mark you, these number plates apply to all motorcycles or any other motor vehicles, boats, any other form of motor that goes onto the road. Why hasn't the public been sensitized? There are so many questions that we have been asked. Even us, we didn't have the answers until yesterday. We had a few of the answers, and that's why we're here. And our first appeal to government is that if you haven't adequately sensitized, we humbly ask that let us have this project piloted to build public confidence in the entirety and the purpose of this project. Let us have it piloted over a 3-month period, a 6-month period, whereby this new technology, we start with the government vehicles themselves. It's interesting for me as a citizen of this country to be used as a guinea pig to test this new technology that the government is proposing. So in summation, our first request and what we discussed with the regulators yesterday is that fine, the idea might be good, we agree with it, but can we have a piloting, a run through with government vehicles first, and then build the public confidence that yes, this works. If there are any errors, any compatibility issues, if there are any follow-up and roll-up complications, which always happen when you're introducing a new product, let us have those ironed out while you're experimenting with the government vehicles. Then in October, maybe or January next year, we roll out to the general public.
Well, thank you, Mr. Avery. I want to turn to you, Mr. Rapper Thompson. As a proprietor of Safe Border, you have a very huge community behind you. You have quite a number of people who are looking at Safe Border as their only source of income. Now we have a new regulation that is going to affect each and every one of those lives. First of all, according to Mr. Gobi, the government has concluded that the process of the gazetting of the Traffic and Safety Regulations Act 2022 and of course statutory instruments 49, you have of course privacy and security as one of the key things. And the president has been very keen on security since the murder of, for example, the late Honorable Abiriga. We've had also the murder of the daughter of Honorable Major General Katumba Wamala, who is now the minister in charge of this sector of transport. And they're saying the first and sole reason why we are bringing these digital number plates on board, especially for the borders, is to increase safety of every Ugandan, to see that we have safety, we have tracking solutions for all motor vehicles on the road. What is your stand on this particular point of security in as far as Safe Border is concerned?
Thank you very much, Anthony, and thank you so much, Smart24, for giving us a chance to speak about this issue on a very special day like this. To all the Ugandans, I think Marvin has already explained how digital plate is going to work and probably what exactly it means. The scare of all Ugandans is real, and the fear is still there, because really we don't want to say the project is really bad. We also don't want to say the project is perfect. Part of our biggest issues, and it's been a combination of issues. One is that as people or final consumers of the product, we were never at any one moment consulted. And for me, I find that very, very disappointing that if in this country we still believe it's a democratic country where we all have a stake, we all have a say, initiatives like this, which is for the people, must include the people that will be affected. So for me, that point really raised a lot of alarm, and especially for the border guys and the members of the Safe Border community. A lot of them really has been very unhappy, because whenever they could ask us, whenever they could ask me, I would also ask them, and no one had clarity on what was happening. So for us, we woke up and started writing letters to the concerned offices to make sure, to the concerned authority, to make sure we get answers where necessary, and joining hands together as members of the border fraternity with the car dealers and importers and the clearing and forwarding association was the best thing that ever happened, because now we all came under one umbrella and we aired our views and shared our different fears in the meeting that happened yesterday. Now, we would not have, the first thing is that, of course, people tend to say, and this has been the biggest problem I have, is that whenever there is any incident, they say a borderman, a borderman was involved, a borderman was involved. And I think really, to be honest here, is that we have had a situation where a lot of innocent bordermen has probably lost their source of earning or ended up in prison, even when they were not criminals. We've been looking for situations where a real borderman has been pinned for having committed the offense, but we're not seeing that coming up in all these incidences. There's always a say of a borderman. Most of the report says there's people who are riding on a motorcycle. Now, the biggest problem we have in the industry is that also people don't know who is riding to work, who is riding on his leisure day, who is actually doing the real border work. This is why for us at Safe Border we came out very clearly and made sure that there's a difference between anyone who is just riding a border and people who have dedicated their time to providing a service in this industry. That's why we brand ourselves the way most people see us. But part of our biggest problem is that this is an issue that is aimed at probably making the industry safer. And they think that we are part of the biggest problem. Border is categorized as a national problem. But then one of the issues that come up is that why don't you talk to us? Why have we not been consulted at any one moment? So our fear is that in the statement delivered yesterday, or in the consultation delivered by the Commissioner of Transport, it was clear that this device was tested on around 30 vehicles, only vehicles. And this included some of the few buses and some of the government cars. But it was never tested on a border. So we were very clear that you cannot not have tested on a border and now wants to implement and have a national rollout on all the borders across the country. That's really not acceptable, it's not fair, and our position has really been clear that you cannot do that because this is not how things are supposed to work. Number two, which is one of the biggest problems, is the question of price. We really find it very, very destructive, unfair, anti-progress, an attack on the industry. When you actually, because from us what we see here is that the $200, which amounts to around 714,000 shillings, is purely tax. It's not anything that we should be like, it's a special, no one should tell you it's a very special device that costs so much money, so you should charge that high. No, because we actually have businesses that provide tracking devices here, and trackers arrive here for as low as $10 to $20, and you have a tracking device that actually works.
But also, Ricky, the company that is providing these services apparently is from Russia, a joint stock company, Global, which has been commissioned as per now to actually issue these number plates. Don't you think probably government is trying to cover for that cost? Because I'm sure by the time they go to a Russian company, probably the product is super different from what would be acquired here in Uganda.
I have built the #1 ride-hailing platform for Africa from Chebando, Kampala, Uganda. So I really understand tech. So if there was anything related to technology, I think people like us would have actually been involved if we needed to cut down the cost. But I respect and appreciate the decision of the president. I really don't want to go into the joint stock arrangement with the government, with the president. I am only interested in the fee that is going to be attached to the borderman. Because what you should know is that this is not just a fee to the borderman. It's going to have an effect on even the pricing of the borders. Right now, the price of a border is around 5.3, 5.4 million shillings. And if you add another 700,000 on top of that, the border is going to go to around 6 million. The biggest problem we have in the industry, like ours where we come from, is that we have very few financial institutions, probably the tier, I don't know if you call them tier 3 banks, that are willing to really, really heavily invest in financing and do like asset financing because of the risk involved. Now, what has happened is that you have the small finances that have come in to be able to fill up that gap. But the industry is big. Now, that has put a lot of burden on the border guy, that you get to realize that the cost of acquiring one border goes, especially when you take it on lease to own, goes to as high as 9 to 10 million shillings if you pay it for a period of 2 years. Now, look at the situation where there's another 700,000 that is going to be topped up. The price of the border is going to shoot from around 5.3 million to now 6 or 6.2 million shillings. And then there's going to be a requirement for a down payment that you have to do like around 20%. So it's going to be like over 1 million shillings as down payment. Now the interest rate is supposed to be around 5.8% per month. And then that's going to shoot up because now the drivers cannot afford to pay maybe over 100,000 shillings per week. And they have to pay this over probably a period of 2.5 or 3 years, and the interest is going to be accumulating. So the cost of acquiring one border is going to shoot high. And probably this one thing you should also know, that after the 2 years of acquiring a border, the price drops to as low as around 2.5 million shillings. Now, the depreciation is very high. The cost of acquiring it is very high. And this is going to be driven mostly by the number plate alone. We have number plates that has actually been working. And we kind of feel like, unless otherwise government has something to explain to us, the cost for the border is not fair. Now, in terms of fair taxation as well, yesterday in the discussion, it was clearly categorized that people who buy cars, they buy it for luxury, okay? That cars are luxury goods, and that's why government really like, you know, $200 is okay because it's luxury. Now, part of our key question is that is the border also a luxury? Because the border has been a form of employment, it's the best means of transport. Kampala itself, I can tell you authoritatively, during lockdown they tried it, not to have borders, but I can tell you authoritatively that there was no life in Kampala. Businesses were not moving on. So Kampala itself cannot survive even for 24 hours without borders. So the way the country has been built really depends on border. And then the border is really a form of employment. It employs over 1 million young people across Uganda. And so is it also categorized under luxury, or there is need for some sort of discussion? That's number one. Number two is that a guy who imports a car is like what? Maybe an average of like 25 millions. Or 30 millions, thank you. An average of around 30 million shillings. What is an average price of a border? Is around maybe what? 3 million shillings, or 4 or 5 millions, right? You cannot say that in terms of taxation, because this is purely tax. You cannot say that you are taxing the guy who imports a good of 30 millions, the same price for a guy who has a good of around 5 million shillings, the same fee. In terms of percentage, in terms of fairness, it really doesn't work. Now, they are looking at creating, probably having harmony and creating security, but then they are also creating an insecurity. Because if you run down people and make them jobless and make them not able to achieve anything because of the fact that it's even difficult for you to acquire a border, there are so many people who are about to enter the industry, the business are also reduced, you're creating a national insecurity again, right? So I think it's also important we look at it from that perspective. But most importantly is that this project wouldn't have been, it's not a bad idea. It's not like the worst thing that has ever happened. But for us, we really think that first is we need to be consulted, two is that the project needs to be tested with a few samples, and then three is that the fare or the price also need to be discussed, because I can tell you authoritatively right here that we are not going to agree to pay the same fee like the guys who are luxuriously enjoying life, you know. And yes, and I actually think that there is also a discussion that we need to have, because yesterday I actually discovered that the best cars are owned by actually people in government. So I thought this was like a form of security, an enabler, but it's being defined as a luxury. So I don't know if really we need to continue with this sort of conversation, but. Ministry of Works and Transport and URA needs to continue to engage us, but 1st of July seems to not be acceptable, and we are very clear, and as a person, I really don't agree to that. But even if I agree to it, my people do not agree to that concept, and the border industry don't agree to that.
Yes.
And we think that there's need for adjustment, there's need for testing, there's need for proper consultation, there's need for involvement, because this is our country. You know, the president you're talking about is called Yoweri Kaguta Museveni Tibahebura. He's our president. We was elected by the people of Uganda, so he has to make sure, even when he's bringing a project that is aimed at making the country better, it is for us. And the issue of national security is our issue. There is no national security without our own people. The guys who are carrying guns, who are protecting this country, the guys who are bringing members, the guys in SFC, the guys who are in Somalia, these are our brothers. These are our own people. The guys riding the borders are our own people as well. So this is us, yeah? So we really need to make sure that every other person can be involved and can promote and can help in and can contribute in the national security. But if you do things like this, I can tell you it's going to create another problem for you to solve, because now we have so many young people. Are you going to render them jobless? Now people do not agree to this. Are you going to force them to have an airplane? Either they want to say, we really bash or we really go against the company that he has signed a contract with, or we get on the table and have a decent discussion, because the country is supposed to have discussions and agree with its people. And for us, given that we have the numbers, we must be listened to.
Thank you, Mr. Ricky, for that wonderful submission. I think Mr. Everett feels attacked at this moment for having a four-wheel machine. But let's Mr. Everett, let's talk about the car dealers and, of course, users of cars. Looks like Ricky has really defended this border side. He's saying, first of all, they were not consulted, and both parties were not consulted. That's the car users and the border users. But then, when it comes to the issue of the pricing, is it fair for cars to be asked the same amount of money as borders in the first place?
Well, Ricky, allow me to say, Ricky is one of my customers.
So he leaves the other people.
So he's also in the category of the luxury users.
No, but I'm being supported by my people,
Yes.
and I have a little bit of that privilege.
Yeah, well, Anthony, allow me to also shed a little more light on what in relation to your earlier question. First of all, security. I think it's pertinent that we discuss the question of security. Security relates to you, relates to me, relates to Ricky, and relates to all our viewership. Security relates to each and every Ugandan. I think it's under the constitutional responsibilities of, let's start with the head of the country and the security agencies, is to protect both lives and property of Ugandans. You asked if I think your question was in relation to the security component. As car dealers, we do understand the direction that government is taking in relation to security. It goes without saying what we have seen happen in our country over the last recent years, and I mean, being the people that are in charge of that docket, we presume that it is within their docket to make the best decisions for the country. So in answering the question for security, I do think government definitely makes a good argument, because there is a need to streamline and improve.
But the pricing...
The question now you're asking me is the pricing. To quote you verbatim, according to the amended Traffic and Road Safety Act, and allow me to again educate our viewership, the new number plate is going to cost 713,400 shillings. This is for both new motor vehicles and new motorcycles. However, a provision has also been made for those people that need to change their number plates. Let me give an example. Hiriki here has a UBN 001A, and because the government has put it in the laws that every car on the road or motorcycle has to change the number plates, and they have given us to the new format, and they have given a window of 2 years within which to do it for those that already have existing number plates. However, now, the tricky part for us here is that they've made the cost of the exchange, let's call it exchange, from the old number plate to the new number plate, they have put it at 150,000 shillings for motor vehicles, and they have put it at 50,000 shillings for motorcycles. In relation to the question, again, Anthony, that you asked me if it is fair, Ricky's argument does make sense, that when you look at the income or the income brackets of a person who's affording a vehicle and the purposes of the vehicle, and again, I'd like to say a vehicle is not a luxury. I think I also beg to disagree with the submission from the ministry yesterday that vehicle is a luxury. No, we did raise the point of public transporters. Do you want to tell me buses? Do you want to tell me coasters? Do you want to tell me lorries? Do you want to tell me the public transport companies, the safe cars that Ricky is providing us, Uber and all that? Do you want to tell me that these are luxuries? No. Internationally, in the index of living standard, a motor vehicle and mode of transportation is defined as a necessity. And so I do think that our brothers at the ministry and sisters blundered a bit there. A motor vehicle and a motorcycle are a necessity. Transport is one of the basics of human life. And that means maybe the question of cost, I would not like to say that it's as detrimental as it is for motorcycles, but I would also think that the question of cost has to be revisited. The question we raised yesterday, and we shall still raise again to our folks at the ministry, is if you tell me that for the same technology, and I mean the same tracking device, the same number plate, you're going to charge me 713,400 shillings at first importation when I'm getting the car out of the bond. And then you're going to charge me 150,000 shillings at the point of exchanging because I already have it. Where is the rationale if I'm using the same technology and the same devices in both instances? Is government, through their regulation, are they then trying to tell me that the cost of the technology is actually 150,000 shillings? Or in the case of the motorcycle, are they trying to tell me that the cost of the technology is 50,000 shillings, right? Because it's the very same technology. They have not shown us any difference between what the number plate or the devices for the new car and the already existing car. It's already the same. Keeping in mind, Anthony, if you move me currently, and Ricky can help me understand, but I think for a new motorcycle, if you're getting it out of Vama or TVS or Simba or wherever it is, a number plate cost will be 125,000 shillings. For me as a motor vehicle, it will cost me 137,000 shillings. And now here you are jumping to 713,400 shillings. This is a 5-fold increment. You're increasing by 563,000, something of the sort. So where is the justification? And we asked the ministry officials that where is the justification? We are embracing the security component of the project. We do understand the need, but shouldn't security be affordable to Ugandans? And so we threw the question back to the ministry. Is there a possibility of revising downwards? Or like you've rightfully suggested, Anthony, is government then able, if the consumer says that, well, we're not able to take up this cost, is government then able to come in and subsidize to a certain extent this cost? And then more importantly, I don't think it's also right, in my personal opinion, to charge a car the same as you would a motorcycle. I don't know to be raised. But back to the question, yes, security is very key. It's very important. We agree with the project. And this is why we've asked government that, guys, look, you didn't conduct any stakeholder engagements. We have given you our feedback.
The due diligence.
You have now done the due diligence. You've had one interaction with us where we've raised our points of concern. Instead of rushing to enforce this on 1st July, listen to us. Take our notes, go back, sit, review, and while you do that, give yourselves we'll even give you 6 months. Give yourselves a 3 months or a 6 months period, review all these contexts, and then come back with a more solid position. But again, to instill confidence in me and you, Anthony, in Ricky, in Marvin, test this technology on your own fleets. Government has over, I think, 10,000 motor vehicles, I think over 18,000 motorcycles. That is a good testing ground. As my brother Ricky here said, we were informed that they conducted tests on 30 vehicles. You are talking about 1,700,000 vehicles we have in this country. The motorcycle sector alone has 2.4 million motorcycles. None of this has been tested. So again, I will throw it back at government that Your ideas are good, but they have not been tested. Give yourselves time. Let's not create a national crisis because it's in nobody's interest. I won't be able to sell. Ricky won't be able to sell. People will be out of employment. Revenue won't be collected. Anthony, you've just told us about the increased revenue targets. So is government shooting itself in the foot? Is our question at the end of the day.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Eber. We have to take a quick breather right now. But when we return, we have, of course, some feedback from the people themselves that are involved in the business of transportation, the border users, the car users. But also when we return, Mr. Eber and Mr. Rapa, the issue of privacy. We've mentioned consultation, the pricing. How about privacy? What is the reaction of the users in as far as privacy? Yes, we are fighting crime, but also I wouldn't think it's always a good thing to know where everyone is at any particular moment. Everyone has a freedom to privacy. Isn't this going to be evading the privacy of individuals? We return shortly after this breather. Don't go anywhere.
Smart 24, driving business.
Say goodbye to paperwork and travel costs. Now every MTN customer can register to invest in securities anytime and anywhere with Zabu in a few simple steps. Step 1. Dial *292 hash. Step 2. Select option 1. Register with Zabu. Step 3. Enter your full names. Step 4. Enter your national identification number. Step 5. Enter your national identification card number. In 24 hours, you will receive an SMS confirming your registration. Congratulations, you are now ready to invest.
Emizannyo si muzannyo olina okwewaayo n'okukkiririza ennyo mu ky'oyiiya olina okubaayo n'omuntu akuyambako naye olowooza omuntu ng'ekyo kimuli mu musaayi ebyo bimulya anti aba yazaalibwa kukola ekyo tega Palmagic Prime ne Palmagic Loco sigala ng'oyungiddwako olabe engero zaffe ennyuvu nga bikoleddwa mu ngeri eyaffe ey'ekinnansi.
Smart 24, driving business.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for staying tuned. This is Smart 24 TV and we drive your business. Of course, today is the National Budget Day and very soon we are going to be hearing from Kololo and we'll be, of course, giving you all the events as they unfold. However, we are still talking about, of course, the new number plates that are yet to be revealed, the digital number plates. One of the things that has been of concern is the fact that the stakeholders haven't been consulted, as of course they claim not to have been consulted, but then also the pricing of these new number plates, which is going to cost us at least $200 for every new number plate. Now, the other question that has been on people's minds is the issue of privacy. And I want to start with you, Mr. Rapa, on this one. When you look at some of the things that people enjoy is their privacy. But now with these new digital number plates, we are going to have a tracking device that's going to track your car wherever you're going. For some reason or another, sometimes we need privacy and we don't need everyone to know where we are going. Actually, it can actually be an issue of security for people to know where you are every single moment. Don't you think this is also going to be compromised by the new digital number plates?
Thank you. I think for us, one of the biggest problems in relation to privacy is security. And I want to give you a very simple example. There's been a lot of shooting that has been happening in different parts of this country, mostly, of course, in Kampala. The recent one, there was this recent one that happened around 7 p.m. And on a busy route, right? Where you have people in traffic, people who are going to their home, you know, you have borders who are transporting people and stuff like that. Now, usually how security works is that whenever an incident happens, what I anticipate, and this is exactly I think what is going to happen, is that they're going to cycle that area. Maybe they will say 200 or 100 meters away from the crime scene, who was actually there, right? Now remember, your car has got a digital number plate, and you are on your way, and an incident happens where you are nearby, and I can tell you authoritatively, you are going to become part of the prime suspect, right? And that could cause a very big crisis for our people. And this is something that we've been talking about that some people really don't seem to realize it, but this is a very serious matter that you usually have also seen incidences where people just get themselves in trouble and probably lose their opportunity to contribute to the country because they were just in a wrong location. They were in the right place, but at the wrong time probably. And this is really like a question that we are asking: like, what will happen? Because this is when you heard very well. The president made a statement when he visited the crime scene, where when he visited a very gas place, he did clearly say we need to be able to see who was in this area. Now that means that all of us are going to be at a risk in case anything like that happens. That's number one. Number two is that as a borderman, my work is to move people. I try to pick somebody from point A to point B and drop them and let them go, right? Now, as you have said, you know, people jump in the taxi, people jump on borders. For us as Safeguard, of course, we have an advantage sometimes when people use our platform to sit on the border, to use our service. Sometimes it's a little bit more secured. But then in a situation where a borderman picks a wrong person, and then probably the number plate clearly tells us because we have had incidences where security is really like looking for someone who was seen on the back of a border, and then 2 months later they ask the borderman, we saw you were carrying Marvin. How do you know Marvin? You know, but most cases, like, you stop a border on the road, he drives you past the traffic, and now everything is digitized, and the guy drops you, he doesn't know you, he doesn't have your contact, you don't come through the app, and boom, he's gone, right? Now the border guy is there, stranded, is being asked, we saw you, there's a picture here, you were with Marvin. Yes, I was with Marvin, I'm a transporter. Does the law protect me if I'm a transporter? This is a question to discuss. What will happen in case I'm seen carrying a passenger? Because a borderman carries, on average, these people carry up to like an average of 15 people that they don't know, that they will never meet again probably for the next 3 to 4 months, because you keep carrying strangers every single day. So what will happen in such a situation? That I have been seen using the digital number plate, digital cameras, digital trackers. I've carried somebody that you're looking for, but I have no idea and I have no connection to this sort of person. So the question of utilization of this information is really, really an issue, because already we are already seeing incidences where there have been incidents where people or the security apparatus are really looking for individuals that were seen carrying other people on a border, but they had no connection to this sort of group. So really we have our fears as people, as borders, because now, everyone says we are bad people, we are criminals, and this is something that should scare Uganda. Now, this is also part of the submission that came out yesterday directly. Actually, it was done by the spokesperson from Kasida, the director of policy at PSF as well, that I could have a grudge with Marvin. And I know somebody who knows somebody in the command center. How is it true that I'm not going to use my connection, my Gambano, to know exactly where Marvin and Anthony is, right? Because we have seen situations where the command from above and people, and also just this is on like me having connection. If I have like connection to my guys in police, the guys at the command, because these are human beings who know people who also have life that live outside being in the command center. How sure are we that these people are not going to use this sort of information against like the people that they are connected to? That's number one. Number two is what will happen if you are on the opposite side of the government. Like you are in the opposition, assuming you have a blue beret, or you have the red beret, or you have the green beret. What will happen, right? And you have a very strong opposition that some key people in powerful position have interest to protect for. Yeah. What will happen? Like the people in the opposition, I don't know these things about politics, though I'm also interested in things that concerns me. Yeah. But the reality of things is, what will happen now if you have, if you are against the interest of government and you are purely in the opposition? For us here, we're businessmen, we can really talk, we can say anything, because, we have the privileges to say some of these things. But what will happen if you are in the opposition and they want to know where you've been? You've also had incidences where, really individuals are being deployed to monitor human beings. And so now it's being digitized. Yeah. What will happen? This is not about killing, this is not about shooting anybody. What will happen to those now who are on the opposite side of government, right? So I think we need government to come out and assure us, educate us, and probably put in other added policies that protects the interest of Ugandans. Because if that's not done, because we have lots of questions. How do people access this data? How is this data protected? From like hackers, right? All over the world, hackers are there. Systems are being hacked all over the world. How will we know that probably even just the internet wrongdoers are not just going to come and sit with their computer like here and break the system and do what they want to do with it, right? And even the president, if your cars are going to be digitized and hackers can come and even go now the system and destroy it and probably interfere, what will happen?
I think there will be exceptions, Rafa, when it comes to digitizing. Probably some vehicles will not be able to be tracked. For example, the presidential motorcade. And I have a concern, and this is to Mr. Marvin, especially on cars here in Uganda. I've seen cars without number plates on the road. I don't know if these are government cars. I don't know if they have a special purpose. I've seen cars with black number plates, but with nothing on them. I don't know what this implies also to the car users. But still talking about privacy, in the car industry, you have people who really are so strong on the issue of security. For example, diplomats in the United Nations, people representing different countries in Uganda, and several other very important people. But also Ugandans themselves, when it comes to privacy, are they not going to be compromised, having your car being tracked or trolled wherever you're going? Mr. Marvin.
Anthony, thank you again. Our viewership, thank you again. Allow me make a few clarities before I submit. Mr. Ricky, number one, I am not a criminal. So if I am taking one of your borders, please be sure that they will not be followed by police for any reason whatsoever.
Okay.
Number two, I have no grudge with you, so I have no reason to use my police connections to find out location.
Okay.
But that was just a joke. Anthony, allow me take this from the legal perspective. I'm going to quote Article 27 of the Constitution, and I will quote it verbatim. Article 27 of the Constitution of Uganda provides for the right to privacy of a person, a home, and other property. Subsection 1 states that no person shall be subjected to A, unlawful search of the person, home, or other property of that person, or B, unlawful entry by others of the premises of that person. Subsection 2, which I would like us to pay more attention to, is that no person shall be subjected to interference with the privacy of that person's home, correspondence, communication, or other property. This is a provision enshrined in the ultimate law of the land, and that is the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. When we did raise the issue in yesterday's meeting, the response we got is that, well, there have been some court cases which were won, yes, and privacy is not an issue. Yes, we were given the example of phones are tracked, etc., etc., etc. I would not like to authoritatively comment on that because the ministry promised to share with us information or data in relation to that case. But back to privacy, allow me to reiterate what my concern is. I'm going to approach this in the essence of being a Ugandan and the Ugandan element in the entire system. According to what we were told yesterday, the operations for this system, it's called the Intelligent Transport Monitoring System, ITMS. The operations are going to be manned at the Police Command Center in Naguru. Now, allow me to take you back a bit. According to the IGG's report, I did some reading up on the website of the Ombudsman, dated 26th February 2021, the Uganda Police is the most corrupt institution in Uganda. I'm sure many of my motorists can testify to that. I am not speaking authoritatively, I am only sharing information, so no disrespect to the police command, but this is the information that I obtained from the IGG's website. Now, I would like us, basing on the reality that our police is the most corrupt institution, to satisfy Ugandans as to the integrity and corruption-free nature of the police personnel that will be manning this system. You see, what we are sharing here is real-time location, okay? This is what this system is going to be able to provide. And this is highly sensitive and confidential data. Can the people that are manning this system satisfy us to the fact that they have maybe higher ranked or better paid? Because I believe in the police structure, the higher your rank, the better your pay. Yeah. Can they satisfy us that the people that are manning this system are fairly or at least well paid enough to make them incorruptible? Because the statistics already show that the institution is the most corrupt, okay? So my question is, these people who are manning it, how sure are we that they are satisfied enough for them not to misuse the access to this data for their personal gain? Again, I'll raise security. I'd like to draw to an example of our brother who was recently murdered, Mr. Ronald Mukisa. I think he's a lawyer with IBC. It's a matter still under police investigation. But according to media reports and what we've been told so far, there was the high echelon of the Uganda police.
We are coming back, Mr. Ayebare, very briefly. We are being joined by Brian Alvin, who is in field right now, and definitely is going to share with us some of the insights from the public and what they think about this topic. Mr. Brian Alvin, I hope you can hear me loud and clear.
Thank you very much.
What
as the world
is currently
moving
the
towards
opinion
the digital
on
era,
ground
especially here in Uganda, government is considering electronic number plates into the transport sector. We bring this conversation downtown to engage those who are involved into this kind of business. Tuli live ku Smart 24 bakama bange. Tuzza okwogera ku number plate eza digital oba ezigenda okubeera electronic. Omwezi ogujja kigenda kubeera nga tteeka tutunulira emmotoka kumpi milioni 2 n'ekitundu, tutunulira boda boda kumpi milioni 1 n'ekitundu mu Kampala. Taxi, emmotoka ez'obuyonjo omuli Costa zonna zigenda kubeera ne number plate eziri electronic ng'etteeka ate nga muzisasulira mmwe ng'abali mu transport sector ensonga eno mugitunulidde mutya?
Tweyanziza nnyo ssebo. Pozi amanya n'eddoboozi nze Wasajja Jude gy'agenda Vice Chairman Kansanga. Ku ky'ennamba ezo eziri electronics nze nkiteeka mu mitendera ng'esatu mu ndaba eyange. Omutendera ogusooka guyinza okuba nga guli political. Ogwokubiri guyinza okuba nga gwa byanfuna nga mulimu abasuubuzi abakitaddemu ssente ng'era bulijjo bibadde bibeera. Batuguza speed governor ne simanyi oba kati emmotoka tezikyatta abantu lwa speed. Kuba tebakyakwata speed governor. Ne batuguza emisipi najjo ne gijja. Najjo kati jaggwako omunene yali asuubudde alabika yamazaawo. Ekyo kyaggwa. Ne wabeerayo oluyimba lwa reflector. Kati nayo era yali asuubudde omunene yamazizza. Kati waliwo aleesa aka digito. Kati aleese kusolooza.
Agamba kino kigenda kutuyambako ng'eggwanga URA okubanga ekuŋŋaanya omusolo ogumala tukulaakulanye eggwanga.
Kwegamba bagenza okulaba ng'omusolo ogusinza okufiiriza eggwanga gubadde guva mu dduka. Bingi nnyo nawulira poliisi bagibanja obuwumbi n'obuwumbi bw'essente. Naye ebyo bya mayumba. Kati gwo bagenda kuteekako ki ku mayumba ogusolooza. Ebyo ebintu bye baleese bya kusolooza busolooza ffe bamufuna mpola. Kubanga emmotoka ezaffe mulimu ey'obukadde 4. Kati ogenda gijjako emitwalo 73. Ate esigale ng'ewa PSV, esigale ng'ewa road license, esigale ng'ewa third party. Kati eyo evudde ne mu double taxation kifuuse kirala. Gavumenti esooka erumirirwe abantu ba wansi. Mu nkola eya politiko bayinza okuba balina be baagala okulondoola. Nga bo bakirese kibeere jeno naye bateekeko obuntu bwabwe bu digito nga Jude woolaga bamanya kati ali wano mpaka lwe bakufuna.
Tweyanziza nnyo katugende ku mulala. Ffe ng'abasaabaze tweraliikiridde kubanga ensonga ng'ezo bwe zijja abasaabaza naddala oba abasaabaza abatambulira mu mmotoka ez'olukale mutwongeza ssente. Ensonga eno mugitundde mutya ya number plate?
Neyanziza twebaza Smart TV nti TV eno ddala ya muntu owa bulijjo ate ebigambo byayo si byanjwanjwa kubanga etuukira ddala neeyogera n'abo bennyini oba oliawo bekikwatako. Nze Kirabira Peter, Vice Chairman wa All Tax Park avunaanyizibwa ku by'emirimu. Ensonga eno gye muleese nsonga nnene. Naye era ffe buli kaseera nga bannataxi omulanga gwaffe guddayo eri gavumenti ku bintu bingi ebizze bijja oba oliawo ne bifuukira abantu ekizibu. Twala ekyokulabirako emyaka giyiseewo mingi waliwo yali sipiika wa paalamenti yafiira mu kabenje Nakasongola, baali bamuyita Francis Ayume. Waayitawo wiiki emu nga poliisi erese eddiru y'emisipi. Muteeke mu mmotoka emisipi, buli muto gwina okubaako emisipi, buli musaabaze yeesibe. Ekibuuzo, ettakisi gwazitambuliramu ennaku zino emisipi mwegiri obeera walina kufaayo mulala oba Prime Minister ate bitukizibwe. Ekyo kisoomooza. Ekirala kyekyendaga muntu. Ku lw'omuntu wa bulijjo bakireeta ne bakiggalawo ate ne bateekawo nti tosobola kweyimirira muntu mu kkooti ng'ate tolina ki ndagamuntu. Naye bureaucracy eriwo okufuna endagamuntu essaawa ya leero nti bakugamba bugambi nti yakutunda n'osasula ne bagikuwa buwi okusinga okuyita mu process singa ddala kintu kya kukola business. Kakati bwe tugenda ku nsonga ya electronic number plates waliwo ebibuzo ebiwerako. Minister wa security Honorable Jim Muwezi bwe yali yakayingira mu ofiisi n'akoona ku kintu ekyo olw'okulwanyisa baali bakubye ndooza General Katumba Wamala waliwo yali akubiddwa ne baga nti okutaasa bino naye okuva ku olwo lwe babyogera bakubye abantu ab'obuvunaanyizibwa ndowooza twakasembayo nayisima tebyakola abaffe. Minisita n'addamu n'agamba nti biri ebintu bye twali twogeddeko tebigenda kukola. Ate era olwaleero era minisita y'omu mu minisitule y'emu ate ne bagamba nti kati bigenda kukola naye ate ku mulundi guno birimu n'okusasulira.
Olowooza okusasulira kuno tekutuyambeko ffe ng'Abannayuganda kubanga ekitongole ekiwoza omusolo URA ebeeyongeza ate omusolo gwefuna ne tusasula n'amabanja ge tulina ng'eggwanga.
Kyendowooza ku nsonga y'omusolo ludda lulungi nnyo singa kyekigendererwa, naye bw'ogenda mu URA ebintu byonna biri digito, naye buli mwaka bagamba nti biliyooni 180 obuwumbi 5 era bwabuze. N'olwekyo lwaki gavumenti eno tewa kugezesa okugeza ffe aba takisi tutunda nnyaanya zaffe ne tugula takisi? Lwaki gavumenti eno tegezesa tugeze ekitongole nga KCCA ne bagamba enamba plate tusoose gegezesa na kitongole kimu, tusoose ne ministry, kubanga bw'ojja mu informal sector muffe ffe tutunulamu musolo olw'ensonga bw'oba otereeza musolo okusolooza ate lwaki osooka kunsaba 7.3 ng'ate oleserwa bulungi bwa kutereeza system nsasule bulungi omuki omusolo, ate lwaki ogunzijjako mu advance? Nze ndowooza nina namba plate yange wandibadde onkyusizaamu. Ebintu ebyo bibaddewo nga binyigiriza nnyo omuntu wa taxi. Ebya pamiti obimanyi, batuuka ne baleeta pamiti empya nga tebasomesezza bantu, pamiti ne ze-expiringa abantu ne bafiirwa classes zaabwe.
Naye emitwalo 7.3 mwaka okusasula mwaka,
emitwalo 7.3 okusasula omwaka si kibi era si kiwakanyiza, naye inspection system ya inspection gye baali bazimbye ku buli luguudo bawagirabako bilioni ne bilioni okuinspecting emmotoka ez'omuwi omusolo. Bwe baamala okukola etteeka ne bagamba nti takisi yakusasula emitwalo 15 wabula baasi ya 10, kyali kitegeeza nti kyali mutima mubi. Aba baasi baali balwanyisa takisi ne tugaana essaawa ya leero mulimu buwundo. Kakati y'ensonga eno eya namba plate eno gavumenti esomeseza ekimala okwimpozinga ebintu ku bantu ba bulijjo kireetedde obukyayi bungi eri gavumenti eno. Abaffe obumenyi bw'amateeka bwe tuba tunaabulwanyisa businze kufuŋŋama mu takisi, kubanga ebbanga lyonna lye tubadde wano tetuwulirangayo nti abaakuba Katumba Wamala, abaakuba abonna bakubiddwa mu nfa bwetyo. Tewaliwo lwe baali batugambye nti baabalabako mu takisi. N'olwekyo nze mbadde ndowooza nti ffe ng'abakulembeze tuba tetumanyi mugaso gwa namba plate eyo eri digito ate betukulembera.
Weewaawo byo bino ebimu ku birowoozo bya bano abali naddala mu transport sector. Kanjogereko naye mukama wange amanya
nze Masiko Abdukarim.
Ensonga eri mu ddiiro namba plate eziri electronic URA egenda kuŋŋaanya omusolo guno gutuyambe oba oli awo n'okusasula amabanja. Ensonga eno gitunulidde oti?
Nze enteese yange omusolo ogwo twali tulina namba plate ezaali ennene, ebinamba ebinene, ne baleeta obunamba obutono bwo obuli ku mmotoka namba plate enki ennene, wabula zajja zigwamu mpola ennene nga zijja zigwamu mpola. Bwoba nga bawulira nga baagala batandikire ku digito eyo, batandikire ku mmotoka empya ezijja, wabula zino emmoloka ezaafuna ddala namba plate zaazo bazireke kubanga namba plate ezo twazisasula. URA yafuna musolo, bwebanga tiyafuna musolo buli mmoloka namba plate eri awo eri ku mmotoka eyo batugambe nti gwe tuwasasula musolo tugende tugusasule. Gavumenti wemanyi twasasula omusolo eve ku namba plate zaffe, twasasula omusolo, tusasula PSV, tusasula third party, tusasula income tax, tusasula omusolo gwa KCCA ogwa URA, tusasula emisolo mingi. Zino namba plate bazireke bakozese namba plate ziriwa zijenga zikyuka nga ziggwamu mpola. Gwona asanyuka ng'oyagala digito genda osasule digito, wonna bagwe ng'oyagala eno eriwo ordinary beera ne ordinary. Ebyo byebyange ebigambo ebyange bitono nnyo.
Tweyanziza nnyo ate nga tumaliriza mukama wange amanya ensonga eri mu ddiiro namba plate eziri electronic mugitunulidde mutya?
Tweyanza nnyo tweyanzege aba Smart TV. Amanya n'eddoboozi nze Douglas Mugera Mayinja. Atwala ebbendo benderi Makindi mulimo gwa taxi. Naye nze ndaba nti lwaki buli kimu ekijja kinyigiriza muntu wa wansi. Okuva edda nedda twatambulanga bulungi era muzeeyi abadde ebintu abikutte bulungi naye ndaba kati we tutuuse abantu abawansi basinga okunyigiriza. Lwaki bateekateeka okuleeta digital number plate? Bwe banaleeta digital number plate ebinnya biweddemu mu kibuga Kampala ne mu nguudo ez'ebbali tisinga emmotoka eno eya digital neekuba ekinnya electronic oyo anaasigala ng'akola bulungi. Kitegeeza nti balina kusooka kukola buli wamu ne wabeera sumuusi emmotoka neetambulira wali sumuusi ng'emmotoka bwe baako digital number plate ne bwe beekubye ekinnya ebintu ebisobola kuvaako. Ekyokubiri, amafuta gajja mpola mpola twagagulanga liita 2.5 galinnya kati gali ku kusinga 6 oba 5 tegakkanga. Tuguze baleeta musolo mulala, baleese ebintu bingi, speed governor, baleese emisipi, baleese obusero bw'omu mmotoka, baleese buli kimu kinyigiriza muntu wawaki wa wansi. Nze mbadde ndowooza basoose kutunula baani abafuna ssente nnyingi. Waliwo abafuna ssente nnyingi gavumenti betatunuulira, waliwo abalunda gye bali eyo baleeta ebyokubala ensolo. Tetwawulira nti no baleese omuwendo gw'ensolo guli bwe guti ne babala ensolo zaabwe, kubanga n'ab'ensolo nabo batunda ennyama bavaako omusolo mungi mu ggwanga. Okiraba batunda amata bavaako omusolo mungi ku ggwanga. Bansoose ne batunuulyako kuba mufuna nnyingi ne balyoka bakomawo ne batunuulira kuba mufuna ki bafuna mpola. Siina kimingi kye nyinza commentinga, nze ebyo bye byange neyanza nnyo neyanzeege.
Well, those are some of the few reactions that is coming from the transport sector. The question remains, how will URA be able to enforce this? Brian Alvis Mugera is my name. Back to you in studio.
Brian Alvin Mugerwa, of course, they are interacting with the transporters, the taxi drivers, and of course, getting your opinions on the new number plates. Now, gentlemen, as we wind up the show, what are your closing remarks on, first of all, the credibility of this new project? And then, if at all else is done, for example, they cut the prices and maybe government gets a way to levy a few, a little bit, few people at the beginning, especially government cars, people using government vehicles, maybe people using different transport systems, and then later they roll it out to the rest of the world. What would be your last remarks on this particular one?
I think for me, what I can say is that firstly, we were watching the conversation going on from the public, and it's clear that a lot of people don't have the right information, and people feel they have been excluded, and they are not in full support of this. But as leaders, this is what I would say. The number one is that government needs to come and sit on a round table with us and explain to us and build confidence in us as the people who are going to be consuming this product. That's very important. The fact that we are not consulted means that we don't even know what to tell our people, apart from telling them also we don't know. So coming back to us and engaging us will be very important. Number two is that we do not want a national project that has never been tested anywhere. It is only going to be fair if a project starts in phases and is tested over a period of time to build confidence in Ugandans, because this is for our own good, and if it's for our own good, then we all need to be involved, and we need to make sure that the confidence is built in the people. So there's need for testing. Saying that they're going to roll out to everybody, it's not what we want, because there are a lot of unanswered questions. The last one really is that on questions of data privacy and all these things, government needs to clearly issue out a statement or give us or remake a policy that protects the usage and access of this data, and clearly highlights how this data can be accessed, how this data is going to be processed, how this data is going to be used, and all this information. Because if it's just a blanket that you're going to receive, where we are, you can see us on the cameras, blah blah blah. Now it really raised a lot of eyebrows. So these are really things that we think once it's done, there'll be no point of going back, right? But the moment they don't try out, they don't engage us, they don't run a trial. And of course, for us as border men, we do not believe in the price is even very high, but I don't want to talk about the price because the product is not going to come into force without us agreeing on what price we are going to pay. So getting us in a round table means discussing even on the question of price and all this other thing. That's what I would say. To the viewers and the people in the industry, please don't lose hope. We're sure that government is going to listen to us. I've had a few conversations here and there. Please keep calm. We really need to keep calm. We need to really be decent. We'll continue engaging government at every level and make sure that our voices are heard because we are the young people. Of course, we run the economy, especially the Kampala and other parts of this country. Border is not a luxury. It's a form of employment for young people, and this is a very sensitive. We'll continue engaging government and we'll continue informing you of the different steps that we'll be taking, but we are sure that national rollout on borders will not work on 1st of July.
Thank you. Mr. Marvin, your concluding remarks.
Thank you, Anthony, for hosting us again. Ricky, I've learned a lot from your submissions, especially in relation to the border. I like to educate and sensitize. Let me help government a bit here. Anthony, you raised an issue. I was reading some provisions of the regulations and diplomatic missions, the UN agencies, the president and other special purpose vehicles, as the minister may prescribe, will be exempted from these number plates. In summation, I don't think I'm going to differ very far from what Ricky has said. And again, I will not differ from our position, which we shared with the regulator, that's the Ministry of Works, yesterday. We, as the motor vehicle sector, we understand the underlying key points, which is security and road safety, to which we have no objection. But what we request is that this project is piloted over a 3, 6, maybe even 1 year period, starting with government vehicles first, to build the confidence that we need as the consumers, and I speak on behalf of the motor vehicles, in the entire system. All these blockades and rigidness that is currently in the system will be ironed out, especially if it's done on government vehicles, and then we can have the massive uptake by the public after the government has built the confidence first.
Wow, thank you so much, gentlemen, for your submissions. And thank you for those of you who have been online. Kimono Winnie, for your comments here. And she was saying that I think government should make digital number plates very free. It's in government's favor, not the public. Thank you so much. We are still, of course, eyeing the national budget. And after the break, we return, of course, with some people from the Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group and the Uganda Manufacturers Association on matters concerning the national budget. Stick around. We return shortly after this breather.